Okay, so when we last saw our intrepid car restorer, I was working on the green bus, and I was faced with a very sloppy engine.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be. End play is not supposed to be audible.
And I was worried I was gonna have to replace it. Well, spoiler alert, it's now much later and I haven't replaced it, but I'll get to that eventually. However, at the time it was April 2021, and it is now, oh God, okay, that calendar says January 2023. That calendar is 2 years old. Right now it is January of 2025. So I have 4 years of videos to catch up with. And I don't even know where to start here, so I'm just going to go on to whatever the next little project was, because I did get back to the bus, but at that very time, I thought, how about I work on something else? And I'd inherited a bunch of motorcycles, so I thought, maybe something simpler, maybe something with half the amount of wheels and half the amount of cylinders and, like maybe 1/10 of the cc's. And wait a minute, why am I even reporting from my kitchen here? This is my car show. This is the Filthy Gearbox Garage, where there's a thin line between a classic car collection and a junkyard. I think that's the tagline, I'm not sure. But I'm not even sure why I'm reporting from my kitchen. Let's go to the garage instead. No, not this garage. The other garage, my dad's old shop. I've made tons of progress on it. Let's go take a quick look at that. And then go back to the kitchen. I'm confused. Where am I going? This building right here. There's stuff up on the walls. There's more stuff up on the walls. There's actually a fair amount of cleared space. There is quite a lot of space in here. I'm still working on the walls. There's more license plates and things. Probably going to get completely covered with license plates and insignias. So I'm also going to set up an I-beam going from there all the way across to there. And on that I-beam is going to be this engine hoist, which is on wheels. So that way I'll be able to take an engine out of, say, this car, jack it up, move it over, and then put it onto a table over there. And as you can see, there's already a couple of engines here that I salvaged from some other parts cars. And Saab engine and the other motorcycle. And the Citroen, which I really should be working on. So, yes, this is a ton of progress. Okay, that was just a teaser of what's to come on the Filthy Gearbox Garage. But let's now unfortunately go back to April of 2021, or maybe it was June of 2021, and I decided to get this pile of old motorcycles working again. And I think we'll start with the smallest one, which is the 1965 Honda 150 Bentley, which is known as the Baby Dream, or at least they call it the Baby Dream now. So we will go there. So the bike we're going to work on in this video is a 1965 Honda 150 Bentley. It's what they also call the Baby Dream because it looks like the 305 Dream, but it's smaller. Now, my dad bought this motorcycle brand new in 1965, or possibly he bought it as a year-old leftover in 1966. And here it is in my dad's driveway in 1970. He barely rode it when I was growing up, and he only put 5,516 miles on it. Now, in 2010, I dragged this motorcycle out, and also a black 305 Honda Dream, the year I'm not sure it is, and transported them both in the back of a 1998 Volkswagen Beetle. Now, can you move a motorcycle in a golf-based Beetle? Yes, you can, but I don't really recommend it. At that time, 2010, I wasn't really interested in making the motorcycles run. I was just making them look pretty for a pinup-based biker photo shoot that I was doing. And to confuse you even further, there's also another 305 Dream. It's a very rusty one. It was maybe 1963. It's a slightly different tank design. And that one, I at least had the good sense to move it in a Volkswagen bus, which is a lot easier than moving it in a Bug. And lastly, there's a 1966 red Honda 350 Superhawk, which I used in 2018 in a Mad Max style photo shoot. And I was always going to junk that motorcycle. However, that is going to be the subject of another video. And some interesting things happen there. Back to the red and black motorcycle. I was kind of sick of having black motorcycles, so I thought it would be nice if I did get this thing running to paint it another color. The first thing I had to do is I had to actually clean out the carburetor to get it to run. And it turned out that the carburetor was so jammed up with old gasoline that I couldn't even get the throttle cable out of it. So I had to soak it in gasoline sitting on the motorcycle connected to the throttle cable. However, once I got the carburetor off and cleaned out, the thing sprang back to life. And for the very first time in my life, I was actually riding a motorcycle, not even having a clue how to use that. So there is definitely going to be a long laundry list of things I need to get for this motorcycle. I definitely need to get an exhaust for it. I need to get new tires. Pretty much everything else after that is cosmetic. However, it does have some oil leaks and some other issues as well, but we'll get to those eventually. Okay, so the painting process was simply going to be painting it with like Rust-Oleum primer and then this universal metallic pearl mist paint. However, this paint ended up being extremely thin and very translucent, so I had to put another coat of white on before covering it with the Rust-Oleum pearl mist paint. And I have to say, before I even get started, I'm not a big fan of these nozzles. This is not as nice as some of the other nozzles they have on things. New Rust-Oleum paints have a thing where the cap has like 5 different nozzles, so you always have a nozzle in case this one gets clogged. And this is not the greatest paint, but we're going to see how it comes out anyway. I registered the motorcycle and put it on the road, and I actually painted the whole back half of the motorcycle, but I wasn't thinking about making a video about it at the time, so I didn't record any of that. But we're going to pick up the video with the front half of the motorcycle, and you're gonna have to forgive me if there's some terrible audio here, because this is before I got a microphone and I was using the internal microphone on an iPhone with a case around it, which ended up being a terrible idea. So you have to bear with some terrible audio. This is my Honda 150 CA95. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's about half done. I've gone and painted the back half of it, and I need to paint the front half of it at the same time that I put a new tire on it. So, and there's a bit of sanding and stuff I'm gonna have to do up here. So, if anyone's lamenting that I'm painting a priceless old bike, it's been painted before, so it's not the first time. Yeah, it does have a. This was probably white. Came off of a white one. They painted that black, and as you can see, I have a little bit of an oil leak, but that's not a deal breaker right now. And my front wheel is fairly rusty, but I'm going to have to work with it because I can't find another one at the moment without paying a lot of money. But hopefully, once I get the tire off of it, I can do some rust preventing on there. And but the back half looks very nice. I did new exhaust. I have a new battery in it. I repainted this stuff along with these things, just with a rattle can, but did a nice job. Put a brand new carburetor on it because I had a hard time getting the original carburetor to run at all, really. And that's like a little $17 carburetor from Amazon, and it's supposed to have fit it, but I had to modify it significantly just to get it to fit on the bike, but it does run with it. One of the next things I'm going to do is I'm going to recover the seat.
although I'm a little torn about destroying the original cover, so maybe I'll try to take the original cover and resell it or something. But I'm going to do the seat in a similar color to this brown, and yeah, so maybe I'll do a proper video on this. But I'm sorry that I haven't been working on that recently, because I've been distracted by this, and I've been very bad. But I'm having a bit too much fun on a little tiny motorcycle this summer, and that is kind of how my summer is going. And yeah, so we will be working on this very, very soon. And as you can see, this is actually further along than the videos are, but I can't get too involved in that because I have about 2 videos I need to edit of this before I can get to where I am now. So, alright, so today I'm going to finish doing the painting on the front of the bike here, and I might even add a fun little accessory to dress up the front of it. And while I'm at it, I'm probably going to do my front tire, because that's 55 years old, and maybe adjust the connector here to the exhaust because it doesn't fit very well. And once the engine cools down, I'll probably do a valve adjustment. But mainly I'm going to have to take apart quite a bit of the stuff with the handlebars, and get this stuff off, out of the way. Don't know if I'll take the tank off in order to do this. At a later date, I have some new material to recover the seat with. I might not get that today, but just want to get the rest of the black all covered up on the bike, because I want to make it nice and pretty white. And unfortunately, I was not able to find a better front wheel, so I'm going to have to use this one until a better one comes along. So let's get the wrenches out and start doing it. There's a bunch of wires that go through this thing, and I really want to get this thing off and paint it individually. I'm going to have to kind of work around that, so let's just put that back for now. I've gotten the headlight, the speedometer out, and all the cables tucked in there. Just want to get this cowl piece out. There's 2. Very hard to find. So, okay, normally you would take the handlebars off and there's 2 wires that come down that you would disconnect. Unfortunately, these connectors don't really want to disconnect. Tried tugging on them and they just sort of, I don't know, they weren't moving. So I might try a little bit harder, but I don't want to pull them out so that they permanently fall apart. That being the case, I will leave these here and just wrap them up with some newspaper. There were 4 bolts holding this piece on, but there were only 2 of them left, and then it turns out one of them is down here. It had fallen down and embedded itself between the fender and the forks, and all these years it never fell out. But I'm going to fish that out and use that because I could use that. All right, I have gone a little further than I thought I was going to, but basically I disconnected all of the stuff except for the throttle cable. Unfortunately, the throttle cable, I don't feel like disconnecting it from the carburetor end, so I'm just going to leave it through here. But I got the tank off, so I'm just going to work around this wire cable here. I know I could disconnect it from the carburetor, but I don't really want to get that involved in it. I don't mind actually just letting the handlebars hang here. I'm going to drape something over them. Next thing I need to do is get the front wheel off and the front fender, and then start prepping stuff to paint it. I disconnected this bit. I guess I have to take that nut off, and then I guess loosen these, and then I just put that thing through, and then I guess the whole thing just comes out. And then I'm going to sit the forks on this little cushion here. Take the valve stem out so I can get this tire nice and flat. Get it all here. Yes, came out. Alright. Make my life a lot easier. Ooh. There's grease here. This is a grease fitting. I wonder if this is a glob of grease. Yeah. Alright, so not only did I get the front fender off, turns out, here's the front fender, turns out the bolts that hold the front fender on, you know, I may have to disconnect this because that's just going to get in the way. The bolts that hold the front fender on, they actually hold the front springs and shocks in. So I ended up taking all this stuff out that I didn't think I was going to take out, but it will be worth it. Okay, I've obviously skipped a couple steps. Alright, I've gone and skipped a couple of steps, but so this is the piece that holds the handlebars on, and I'm gonna go put it on the vise, and I'm gonna tack it with the wire wheel, and then probably paint it with a metallic wheel coating, very aluminum looking spray paint. And then this is the, I guess you might call this the cowl. It's what the headlight goes in. And for those of you wondering about me spray painting the original paint on my motorcycle, this piece here actually came off of a white one. So this bike has been painted before and parts have been replaced. So I'm not really ruining it by painting it with spray paint. But I'm just gonna also have to sand this down and take some of the paint that's chipped off of it and get it nice and smooth. But we'll work on this bit first. In order to get this piece looking nice, it's probably going to require a couple of passes with primer. Probably have to prime it, sand it, prime it again, sand it again, so it's nice and smooth. And then finally we can put white on it, because this is like the most important piece. Hopefully. A little more sanding, a little more primer, that should look fine. Alright, so I was just out in my garage trying to bang out the dents in the fender here,
Until I realized that it's 10:45 in the evening and I have neighbors next door. So I've moved down into my cellar where I'm going to see if I can straighten this out a little bit. See how bad that is. But I've got ball peen hammer and some body working tools here, so maybe I can get that. I don't want to have to use any body filler on it, but I'll just see if I can get it straighter. Alright, and all of the black paint that's in these little letters here has come out, but we're going to do it in a different color. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint this, and then we're going to use steel wool to take it off the chrome. Then we're going to grab it, and we're going to wipe the wet paint off. Alright, we'll let that dry, and then we'll take all the orange paint off of the high spots and leave it in the low spots. So we'll get to that tomorrow as well. And then I'm going to do, so that's how my dings and dents came out. Not too bad. Notice there's a couple more here that I didn't really want, but and then I've gone and made a couple of holes in it that are going to be for my pedestrian slicer. And after steel wooling the paint off the rest of it and leaving it in the inset part, this is how it looks. Not quite as nice as I'd like it, but it's fine. At least you can read it. Okay, it's now the next day, and paint job came out okay. I'm going to not recommend that you paint an old motorcycle with a rattle can, because this paint is so soft. It is so easy to scratch. It's not even funny. And it's not even that shiny. And, well, it's doing what I wanted it to do. It's just going to make it nice for a couple years. But having gone through all this effort, I would have probably been better off doing a professional paint job with real paint that, cures and hardens and stuff. And this stuff just never gets hard. It's so easy to still, put your fingerprints in it and stuff, and this is the day afterwards. But I don't expect it to be perfect. I just want it to be nice for a couple years. And then I'll take it all apart again and do it for real. Alright, so let's get the rest of this together. And okay, it is actually, I did not film a bunch of steps, but I have it all back in, and I gotta say, despite what I said before about this not being a good paint job, it's not that bad either. It certainly looks good from a couple feet away. And I'll also say this, I just looked at some other old bikes that somebody had that they were trying to sell, and they had equally, if not worse, rattle can spray paint jobs on their bikes. So yeah, I guess everybody paints their motorcycle with spray can. So next projects will be the pedestrian slicer. That'll be another video, and probably, oh yeah, recovering the seat. So that'll probably be one. And find some kind of bag to go in the back of this or something. But anyway, looks like I'm gonna go out for a bit more of a ride. And I gotta say, it certainly looks better from the vantage point of the driver's seat. So that's how that project came out. And I just put new oil in it. I just drained out the old oil, and it was so wishy-washy. Probably explains why it was leaking, because it was so not watery, but it was like wine. It was very, very thin stuff. So I put some nice, put this stuff in. This is what someone recommended. Big, thick, heavy-duty oil. That's what went in there. So I'm off to do another ride. Alright folks, this is where I'm gonna leave the video. And there's lots and lots and lots of content coming on Everything's Terrible and the Filthy Gearbox Garage and whatever else I decide to do here, be it vintage computers or fixing up old vintage bicycles or all the car projects, so many car projects, or the costuming stuff, or you have just barely scraped the surface of the rabbit hole of the world of Tara Emery and Everything's Terrible, hence the name Everything's Terrible. And I'm not going to say what's next because I'm not going to get into the situation I was in where I actually went 2 years without a video because forever the next video was going to be about the motorcycles. And I had to be a perfectionist and wait until I can make this video into something that I liked. So I have a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Some of it's not going to be perfect because a lot of this stuff was shot like 2 or 3 years ago, but I need to get it out the door so I can get to the new stuff and the fun stuff and the really cool things that I'm working on these days. So I'm going to leave it at that. Going to do one take and that's it, and see you in the next video. Like and subscribe, yada yada yada. Join my Patreon, etc., and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.